Today, let us have a discussion on COPDs. What is COPD? COPD is nothing but chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or it is also called as chronic obstructive lung disease. Now, chronic means nothing but it is persisted for a long period of time. Obstructive, that means there is obstruction within the airways. That means airways is nothing but pulmonary, that is which is associated with the lungs. C means chronic, which is long period of time. O means obstructive, obstruction within the pulmonary circulation. That is chronic obstruction within the pulmonary circulation is called COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So, in COPDs, what are the organs involved? Means the main organs which are involved in lungs. So, in COPDs, lungs are the organs which are involved. Now, inside the lungs, let us consider these are the two lungs. Let us consider these are the two lungs. Now, inside these two lungs, there is a special term to remember. That is sinus. Sinus is a special term to be remembered by a good student in COPDs. What is sinus means? Sinus is nothing but as we know that these are the bronchioles and here it is trachea. Trachea will enter into bronchioles, right bronchiole, left bronchiole. Bronchioles will give rise to these are bronchi gives rise to bronchioles. Bronchioles will give rise to primary bronchioles, secondary bronchioles, as well as tertiary bronchioles. So, let us consider here these are tertiary bronchioles. Now, from tertiary bronchioles, it gives rise to the respiratory bronchioles. Now, in the respiratory bronchioles, what is acinus means? Acinus is combination of ducts, sacs, alveoli. This is a combination of acinus. Acinus is nothing but it is a combination of alveolar ducts, alveolar sacs, and functional unit, that is alveoli. So this is acinus is an important term to remember in COPDs. Now, within the COPD, before discussing in detail about COPDs, let us have a clear discussion on one special topic, that is the name of the topic is pulmonary ventilation. What is pulmonary ventilation? Forget the word about pulmonary. What is ventilation? Ventilation is nothing but the amount of the air entering into the alveoli for the exchange of gases is called ventilation per unit time, per unit 1 minute. That is, once again, ventilation is the amount of the air which is entering inside the alveoli for the exchange of gases per 1 minute is called ventilation. So it is also called pulmonary ventilation. So the amount of the air entering into the alveoli for the exchange of gases is called pulmonary ventilation. Now, as we know that our lungs are divided into three regions. Let us consider this is our lung. This is our lung. Let us consider this is our lung. inside the lung. These are bronchioles. Let's consider these are the airways. Now, as we know that our lungs are divided into three regions. The anterior most part is upper part, and this is the middle part, upper part, middle part, and as well as this is lower part, upper, middle and lower part. Now, as we know that our lungs are covered by pleural membrane, which is double layered. This is pleural membrane. Now, at which area, that is either upper, middle or lower, in which area the ventilation is more? So, either in upper, middle or lower. The answer is within the lower region of lungs, the ventilation capacity will be more, because as we know that the main concept for the ventilation is this, whatever the membrane we are covering, this is a membrane, the pressure is exerted by this membrane. That is pleural pressure. Pleural pressure is the pressure which is exerted by the membrane of pleura on the lungs. Now, let us consider during ventilation is nothing but inhalation. This lung is stretched. So, whenever it is stretched, this part of the lung will go towards upper side, whereas these lower part of the lungs will come towards this downside. So, as a result, here the gravitational force is also acting. So, because of presence of gravitational force along with the pleural pressure, the amount of the air which is entering into the lower area of lungs is greater, whereas here only the pleural pressure is present. There is no gravitation force in upper area and middle area, but in lower area there is a presence of gravitational force. Because of presence of gravitational force, that is along with pleural pressure along with the gravitational force, it results in more entry of air into the lungs. So the ventilation within the lower part of the lung is more when compared to the upper part and middle part of a lung. So this is pulmonary ventilation. Now there is another term to remember, that is pulmonary perfusion. What is pulmonary perfusion? Ventilation is nothing but entry of the air into the alveoli for the exchange of gases process. Now, what is pulmonary perfusion? Perfusion is nothing but, let us consider same lung here is divided into three parts: upper part, middle part and lower part. Upper, middle and lower part. So these are the bronchiole coming towards here. These are the airways, and here this is the blood circulation. This is the blood circulation going towards it. Now, pulmonary perfusion is nothing but the volume of the blood which is entering into the alveoli for the exchange of gases is called pulmonary perfusion. But ventilation is nothing but entry of air for exchange of gases. Perfusion is nothing but the entry of blood into the capillaries within the lungs for the exchange of gases, that is exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, is called pulmonary perfusion. So we have discussed about pulmonary ventilation and pulmonary perfusion. So there is a concept to remember by a bright student, that is ratio between the ventilation and perfusion. What is the ratio? That is ratio within the ratio of ventilation and perfusion. So first let us discuss one concept, that is minute ventilation. Minute ventilation, that is the amount of the air entering into the alveoli for exchange of gases within 1 minute, is called minute ventilation. Minute ventilation is defined as tidal volume into respiratory rate. This is the formula to remember, that is tidal volume into respiratory rate. So as we know that tidal volume is 500 ml and respiratory rate is 12. So total it involves 6000 ml. This is minute ventilation. Minute ventilation is 6000. So this is known by, this information will be known by every student, but a good student should remember that if 500 ml of air is entered into our lungs, exactly 500 ml of air will not reach to the alveoli. In between the external nostrils to the alveoli, there are some parts which will grab the air, where the air will get stuck. So that is wastage air, adverse damaged air, that is 150 ml. So 150 ml will be lost. Out of this 150 ml, now let us calculate this minute ventilation again. Minute ventilation is equals to tidal volume into respiratory volume. Tidal volume into respiratory volume. Now the tidal volume is minus 150. 500 minus 150 is 350 into respiratory volume. Respiratory volume is this is it is 12. Respiratory rate is 12. That is 4200 ml. So this is the amount of the air. This is the amount of the air which is entering into the alveoli per 1 minute. That is 4200 ml of air will be entered into the alveoli per 1 minute for the exchange of gases. So this is ventilation. It is 4200 ml. 4200 ml. Now, as we know that the amount of the blood which is pumped by the heart per 1 minute is 5000 ml. It is 5 liters. Approximately, let us consider this is 4 liters, and here it is 5 liters. Now, we should take the ratio of pulmonary ventilation to the pulmonary perfusion. So, pulmonary ventilation is, here the pulmonary ventilation is 4200. 4200 or else let us consider 4000. Here this perfusion is 5000. So answer will be 0.8. Now this is the accurate ratio of pulmonary ventilation to that of pulmonary perfusion is 0.8. So this ratio is existed at which area of the lung means this 0.8 is the ratio present in the middle part. It is present in the middle part of water, middle part of the lung. So as we know that 0.8 is a ratio which is present at the middle part of the lung. So what will be the ratio at upper part and as well as lower part? First let us discuss about the ratio in upper part of the lung. So in upper part of the lung, as let us come to the basic one. As we move from upper part to the lower part, the ventilation will be more. As a result, this perfusion rate will also increase from coming from upside to the downside. So in the upper side, the ventilation is less as well as the perfusion is less. So let us consider here less, perfusion is less as well as ventilation will be less. So in the upper part of this lung, it is more than 0.8. It is more than 0.8. That means ventilation will be more, perfusion rate will be, here ventilation will be less and perfusion rate will be more in upper area. Now coming to the lower area, when we come from upper side to the lower side, the ventilation will be increased. As a result, perfusion will be increased rapidly when compared to the ventilation. So here the ventilation capacity will be lower, but perfusion capacity will be more. So as a result, it will be less than 0.8. Less than 0.8. So this is a ratio to be remembered by a good student. Now we have completed about the ratio between the pulmonary ventilation and pulmonary circulation. Now let us discuss about some points in COPDs. In COPDs, there is only inflammation within the proximal parts of the bronchioles. Now, let us consider 3 circles. And 1 rectangle, and here we will shade this part. This part is shaded. Now let us consider this part of patient as emphysema. This part of the patient as emphysema, and let us consider this part of a patient as chronic bronchitis. Whereas this part of the patient as asthma. Whereas this, whatever the shaded part is called as COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Whereas this rectangle part which is out of shade is called airflow obstruction. Airflow obstruction. So what we get from this diagram means, whenever a person coming to us, whenever a patient coming to us in the name of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, we have to check all these conditions. There is possibilities of all these conditions, whether the person may be, let us consider this is the first person. He is the first person where there is only in presence of emphysema is present, but there is no COPD is present, that is emphysema, there is inflammations of alveoli is present. Here there is only inflammation of alveoli without any COPDs. Now let us consider this patient. He is patient number 2. He is suffering from only chronic bronchitis. He is suffering from only chronic bronchitis, but he do not include the COPDs. But let us consider third patient. This is the third patient, patient number 3. So these patient will include only asthma. He do not include chronic bronchitis or emphysema. So he do not include COPDs or any airflow disease. Only he is coming because of asthma. Now there are certain patient, next kind of patient, that is fourth kind of patient. These are fourth kind of patient where there is no asthma, no emphysema, no chronic bronchitis, no COPDs, but there is only the obstruction within the airflow. These are one special kind of patient. These are special patient, and here these are special patients. These are special patient, and here these are the special patients. There is only obstruction in the airflows. There is no asthma, there is no bronchitis, there is no emphysema. Now coming to the next type of patient, that is COPDs. There are fifth kind of patient. So he may have emphysema along with COPD. He may have chronic bronchitis. He may have asthma. So the here in COPDs, patient having emphysema, chronic bronchitis, and asthma, and airflow obstruction. So whenever person is coming in name of COPDs, we have to check the correct form of disease by investigation, whether person suffering from only emphysema or else COPD or any airflow obstructions, or person suffering from asthma, or person suffering from chronic bronchitis, etc. So this is the information will helpful for us. Now let us discuss the pathophysiology which is involved, pathology which is involved in. So before discussing about pathology, these chronic bronchitis, the classical examples of chronic bronchitis are, first one is emphysema, second one is chronic bronchitis. So let us discuss the pathology. So what are the conditions, what are the classical examples of COPDs are first one is emphysema. First let us discuss about emphysema. Now, as we know the structure of respiratory bronchiole, we have studied in earlier classes or in our earlier videos. Now let us discuss the first normal physiology which takes place in alveoli. So in emphysema, what will be the how the emphysema will be taking place? Now let us consider these are bronchi, these are bronchioles, and these are tertiary bronchioles. And these are the airways, alveoli. These are the alveoli. Now, what happens in emphysema means there will be no obstruction for this bronchioles. There will be no obstruction within this area. There will be no obstruction within this area, and there is also presence of elastic tissues. Red color structure is elastic tissue. So, in emphysema, the main pathology is present within the respiratory bronchioles, that is alveoli. These alveoli will get damaged. So, what happens at this area? Only these alveoli will get damaged. Only this part of the airways will get damaged. This is respiratory part and this is conducting part. Conducting part and respiratory part. Now, what happens at this area? Let us consider normal. Let us consider this is our alveoli. Let us consider this is our alveoli. Now, here this is the blood supply. This is the blood supply, and here it consists of endothelial cells. That will be entering in this manner. It will be leaving in this manner. Where exchange of gases will be taking place in this area. Now, here, as we know that within the alveoli, there is alveoli macrophages are present. These alveoli macrophages are present. Now, air will be entered inside this. So, this function of this alveoli is it, and here it is also consist of elastic tissues. Elastic tissues are present. So, the function of these macrophages is it helps in synthesizing a special protein called antiproteases. It releases a protein called antiproteases. These antiproteases helps in maintaining the elastic condition of alveoli along with these blood vessels. So here the partial pressure of oxygen will be 100 mmHg, whereas partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 42 mmHg, whereas in blood vessels is partial pressure of oxygen is 42 mmHg, whereas partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 46 mmHg. So as the blood is moving here inside, oxygen will get entered. Oxygen from the high concentration to the low concentration will be moved towards outside, whereas from carbon dioxide from high concentration to the low concentration will be moved towards inside. So this is a normal process will be taking place in alveoli. So in emphysema, what happens in emphysema means, let us consider a patient taking a cigarette. This is cigarette person taking the cigarette for long time. Now what happens means, these whatever the cigarette which is taken by the person will release special reactive oxygen species. Reactive oxygen species will be released. So these reactive oxygen species, what will it do means, it will activate the macrophages. So whenever the macrophages are activated, what will be the function of these macrophages means, it will bring the neutrophils. So before discussing about that, whenever these reactive oxygen species are activating these macrophages, it gets triggered. So as a result, it will release special proteins like interleukin 6, interleukin 8, interleukin 1, tumor necrotic factor alpha. These are the chemical mediators which are released by these macrophages. Now what will be this tumor necrotic factor and interleukin 1 will do means, it brings the neutrophils into action. It will bring the neutrophils. Neutrophils will comes into action. Now what will these neutrophils will do means, whenever these neutrophils are comes into action, these neutrophils will release special protein. It releases protease. What is the special protease is elastin. Elastase will get synthesized. So because of synthesis of elastase, these elastase will digest the elastic tissue within the alveoli. So elastic tissue will get damaged. So because of loss of elastic tissue, the size of the alveoli will get increased. This is one effect. Next effect is, these neutrophils will activate. It will activate B lymphocytes as well as T lymphocytes. So these B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes will activate, and it releases the chemical mediators like interleukins, prostaglandins and cytokines, etc. As a result, there will be inflammation process taking place. There will be inflammation process will be taking place. As a result, next step is, there is, let us consider this is the glands, endocrine glands. These mucus secreting glands will get activated. So because of activation of this mucus secreting glands, it will synthesize the mucus. It will synthesize the mucus. So because of synthesizing of mucus, it will get accumulated within the alveoli. It gets accumulated within the alveoli. It gets accumulated within the alveoli. So it causes the obstruction of air. So this is a condition where we can see it results in condition called emphysema, where it affects the only proximal part of the respiratory bronchioles. Now this emphysema can be emphysema is defined as, this emphysema can be defined as irreversible enlargement of alveoli because of action of protease enzyme, which is irreversible, is called emphysema. So the main cause is cigarette. Smoking is a main cause. 80% of the emphysema cases are because of smoking. So if, let us consider the types of emphysema. What are the types of emphysema means? First type is centriacinar emphysema. Centriacinar emphysema. What is centriacinar emphysema? So let us consider, 1 × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × 10⁻⁴ × This is respiratory bronchiole, and this is the alveoli. Now, what happens in centriacinar emphysema means the central part of acinar will get inflamed. That means here the central part, of the acina will get inflamed. That is respiratory bronchioles. Respiratory bronchioles will get inflamed in central acinar asthma. So central acinar emphysema. Next type of emphysema is pan acinar emphysema. That is pan acinar emphysema. Pan acinar emphysema. What happens in pan acinar emphysema means in that condition also respiratory bronchioles, the central part will get inflamed, but there is no effect to this alveoli. Now this is pan acinar emphysema. Next one is distal emphysema. Distal emphysema. What is distal emphysema means? The distal part, that is the posterior most part of the acini will get inflamed. That is anterior most part. This is the alveolar last part will get inflamed. That is in distal emphysema. Next type is, fourth type is irregular emphysema. Irregular emphysema. Irregular emphysema is where there may be enlargement of any part, inflammation, there will be inflammation any of the parts of this acina. So this is the emphysema. So what is causes, this is about types of emphysema and mechanism, pathology. Because of first condition is smoke. Coming to the second condition is if there is deficiency of alpha-1 antitrypsin. If there is deficiency of alpha-1 antitrypsin, let us consider alpha-1 antitrypsin. If there is deficiency of alpha-1 antitrypsin, now this deficiency of alpha-1 trypsin, it will stimulate the neutrophils. These neutrophils which are stimulated will result in formation of special proteases, that is elastase. So because of this elastase, it results in damage. It results in inflammation process. So this is about causes. The first cause is cigarette smoking, second one is alpha-1 antitrypsin. So next one, this is it, that means it includes tobacco in first condition. So how can we before discussing about diagnosis, let us discuss some clinical features. Clinical features of emphysema. These clinical features of emphysema, about 1/3 of this emphysema patient are because of smoking, that is 80% are because of smoking condition. So what are the symptoms is dyspnea and hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is the main symptom that can be seen in emphysema, that is there will be more inflammation within this alveoli. These are some clinical features. Coming to the diagnosis. The diagnosis of this emphysema can be done by chest X-ray. In chest X-ray, there is the first condition to be observed in chest X-ray is there should be hyperinflation. There must be hyperinflammation than normal condition, and there should be increase in the anterior and posterior wall of diameter of the lungs should be increased. Anterior wall and posterior wall diameter should be increased in the chest X-ray, and these are the impressions to be noted in the X-rays. That is, first one is hyperinflation and second one is the anterior and posterior diameter should be increased. So this is about emphysema. So the next condition is, the next type of condition is in COPD. The next condition in COPD is chronic bronchitis. What is chronic bronchitis? Chronic bronchitis is characterized by product cough for at least 3 months within 1 year for every 2 consecutive years. That means the chronic bronchitis consists of cough for at least 3 months for 3 months in 1 year for at least 2 years is called chronic bronchitis. Now, what is the pathology involved in chronic bronchitis means? Here in emphysema, the posterior most part is affected. But in emphysema, this anterior most part, that is the epithelial cells, will get affected. These epithelial cells will get, these cells will get affected. As a result, the same condition will be taking place. That means inflammation will be taking place. Inflammation process will be taking place and tissue damage will be taking place. Tissue damage will be taking place. So, risk factors, the same it consists of risk factors. First one, it includes smoke, and second one is family genetic problem. And next one is exposure to the sulfur, exposing the sulfur dust and silica dust, exposing to the sulfur dust and silica dust. Now, this is about chronic bronchitis. We have completed about types of diseases comes under chronic COPD, that is emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Now let us discuss some treatment part. We have discussed treatment part in detail in our before lectures, that is. Now let us discuss some treatment part. The first type of treatment is we should give bronchodilators. It will be of two types: short acting bronchodilators, long acting bronchodilators. Now, as you know that on smooth muscles there are different types of receptors are present. That is, first one, beta 2 adrenergic receptors, and second type is cholinergic or muscarinic receptors. So we have to give long acting beta agonist, we have to give long active beta agonist or long active muscarinic antagonist. Here we should give agonist, here we should give antagonist, because whenever beta receptors are activated, it results in dilation, but whereas in these muscarinic receptors are activated, it results in contraction. If there is more contraction, already person suffering from inflammation as well as bronchospasm, in that condition muscarinic receptor activated means there will be more contraction. So in order to decrease that contraction, muscarinic antagonist will be given. So in order to this, along with this, next type is there will be external supply of oxygen. Oxygen supply will be given. Oxygen supply will be given. That is from external condition. One more non-pharmacological treatment is quit smoking, smoke quitting. This is one condition, one treatment, one pharmacological treatment. And next one is giving inhaled corticosteroids. Inhaled corticosteroids. So these are some examples of treatment, that is bronchodilators, short-acting bronchodilators, long-acting bronchodilators, which will act on beta-2 receptors and which will act on muscarinic receptors. These beta-2 receptors should be activated, muscarinic receptors should be inhibited. And there is one more type of treatment also given, that is anti-inflammatory drugs. Anti-inflammatory drugs. Anti-inflammatory drugs should be given. Now, this is some treatment part. We have discussed about anti-inflammatory drugs in previous video. We have discussed beta-2 agonist in previous video, and we have discussed about muscarinic receptors antagonist in previous video. Now we have completed about chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders.